Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. My name is Emelia Symington Fedy. I am a writer. I am a performer. I am a comedian. I've been called a shameless agitator, a clown. My favorite title is social acupuncturist. Needling in to where it hurts to promote healing. Don't worry, I'm not going to needle into anyone right now. I'll ask your permission first. I'll start by needling into myself. So what I do is I look at my own insecurities, my own imperfections in life, and I share them with the world. Because I believe that great power comes from telling the dark, ugly truth. This is a picture of me, high on ecstasy in a grotto in Australia. And this is a picture of me, high on an epidural at BC Women's Hospital. So, although you can see these two pictures are slightly different, right? What picture is more compelling to you? To me, it's the birth picture. Yes, I'm frozen up to my neck. I'm stoned out of my gourd. I look like a blowfish. But if you look closer, if you look into my eyes, you see this terror. Right? Yeah. Who am I? What has just happened to my body? What will become of me? And then attached to this image on my website is an essay about the shame I felt when I didn't bond with my son for the first few months, and my experience with postpartum depression and anxiety. And it's not pretty, it's ugly, but it's relatable. So that's why I think this picture is more compelling. Why do I do this? Why on earth would I bear all? Am I an exhibitionist? Maybe. Why would I share my most greatest vulnerabilities with strangers publicly, live, online? Am I a narcissist? Yes, probably. But that is a whole other conversation. This is an ancient theatrical art practice that I've been studying for 20 years called bouffon. So, thousands of years ago in a kingdom far, far away lived these creatures called bouffons who had to live at the edge of the kingdom in a swamp because they were imperfect. They had physical deformities, they had mental illness, they were feminists, they were radicals. They were all the imperfect people that were not allowed in the kingdom. But once a year, they were welcomed into the kingdom to perform for the king and the masses. And if they did a good job, they would be given just enough coins to go back to the swamp and live for another year. If they did a poor job, if they offended the king in any way, they would be killed instantly. So this is a very high-stakes performance. The bouffons hated the king. They hated the masses. But they also relied on them for survival. So they had to do this performance. So what they did is they turned the performance into this subversive, very subtle act of satire. They would make fun of themselves, but then by the end of the performance, the finger would be pointed back at them. Okay, so what this would look like is the bouffons would make their imperfections even more grotesque. They would show off their, physical deformities in an even larger way than they actually were. And the audience would laugh hysterically at these fools. And then the bouffons would start to dance. And they would sing. And they were poised. And it was incredible. And this dichotomy between beauty and grotesqueness, it wasn't offensive, so they couldn't kill them, but it was very unsettling. So the bouffons would go home with their coins, one more year in the swamp, and they would know that the audience would leave discomfort. They'd be feeling dis-ease. Who am I in relationship to these people, these imperfect people, and what is my responsibility to society? And they would have no awareness that all these questions came out of the bouffons' subversive performance style of dissent. So that's what I do now. It's not called bouffon. We call it neo-bouffon, right? now, contemporary, instead of looking at my physical maladies, I dissect my own impersonal, F-ups inside, my own personal imperfections. I might look at my shame of being a mother. I might explore my own sexism, racism, white female privilege. You know what I mean? I dig deep. I go down there. It's very uncomfortable. I poke. It hurts. I pull it up, and I share it with you. And then you, the audience, gets to go, oh, like, how does this relate to me? And oh, this imperfection, this unpoised, this refined part of myself doesn't have to be shoved down, right? I can be successful and show my imperfectness at the same time. I want to go back a little bit, and I want to talk about, why do I do this? I was just getting so frustrated, so sick and tired of the light culture. You know what I mean? The light leaders, light bringers, light givers. You can buy this webinar and learn how to be happy in 3 easy steps. Oh, I love being a stay-at-home mom. I love doing all my crafts 8 hours a day with my kids. Here's my Pinterest page. What else? Oh, you can make 6 figures in a week. Not a problem. 1 hour a day. I knew these people that were selling this stuff, and I knew what they were saying and how they were actually living their lives. Wasn't connected, wasn't the same. And so I decided, okay, it's time. The emperor's wearing no clothes. And I'm going to be the little kid at the edge of the parade pointing, poking. Really? Is that true? Is that authentic? I'm not doing it with malice or cruelty. I'm just so sick of this light. It's too fluorescent. It's time to bring ugly back. I also just like making people laugh. So this is called Me Time. This one's called Getting My Body Back. So yeah, basically I turned shame into my game. And like the Buffons, I did have to be very crafty with my message, because when you poke, sometimes you poke a little bit too hard. That makes people angry. And I've had, people call me terrible, terrible names. I've been told I should have my children taken away from me. I've, what else? Made political statements that were potentially ignorant, and I've had to retract and been challenged publicly, and I've apologized publicly. I've had death threats. But that's the fine line, and I've crossed it, because that's what satire is, right? It's walking that beautiful, beautiful, light, fine balance. So I also just like having fun. Showing the chaos of my own life. Do you guys even tell what that is? Has anyone ever had that in their house? You have? Thank you. Thank you. He's fine. Because that's basically my whole point. My whole interest and passion is to shine a little bit of natural light on what I think is the reality of being human. And like I said before, then you get to look at me and look at my imperfections and say, okay, so maybe I don't have to be so perfect either. In fact, showing my ugly side has been the only thing that has ever brought me success. I've gotten great power from showing my ugliness. I have a popular website. I have a radio show. I have a book on the way. More importantly, I have this community of people around me, of rebel rousers, They're shouting, more ugly, more ugly, more ugly. They long for it. They long to hear stories of our shared humanity. Because the truth is, life is painful. We have all experienced profound grief. Sometimes we are just holding on, surviving. And that is okay. And you are not alone. So, back to the picture of the blowfish. I had a very medicalized birth. It was pretty traumatic. My husband said that I looked like robot porn. There were so many wires coming out of my vagina. And while I was lying in the hospital bed, I got a text from a friend, and she said, oh, I just had my baby. I had him in 2 hours. It was a water birth. I pushed him out. I held him. I had an orgasm on the way. Just sunk me. Just sunk me. I wanted to be happy for her, of course. I don't want to be negative, but it just sunk me. I didn't feel connected. And then a few days later, I went home from the hospital. A friend came over. She held my hand, and she said, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I have a 7-year-old. I still don't know how to parent him. I haven't seen my husband's penis in 8 months. I hope I don't see it for another 8 more. And that was connection, right? That pulled me closer. That made me trust her. And being in the position of power, of being trustworthy, I can't imagine anything more incredible than that. I also just like not taking myself so seriously. These are called glam shots. So my friend titled this one, Horse Hoof Pig Face. Right? So that's my call out to you. Everyone in this room, I want you to show me, just start very small and share your worst self. Once, your worst self. Send me a glam shot. Send me the ugliest photo that has ever been taken of you unintentionally. Send it to your best friend. Your best friend will send you one back. You'll both send it to me, and we will just revel together in the horridness of what it means to be human sometimes, right? And it hurts. It does. It's scary. It's terrifying, but the more you do it, the less it will hurt. And I promise you, if you start sharing your darkness, your ugly side, with poise, with confidence, not only will you be held in your ugliness, but you'll be surrounded like everyone in this room right now, this band of rebel-rousers celebrating you for it. Thank you.